welcome to Q&A with CNA. My name is Chelsea Scharr, and I'm here with Mary Kreitz. She is the Trauma Lead Specialist for Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health, and in this episode, Mary will share some insights with us on children's well-being as we enter the summer months. So, hi Mary, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
And although we have you as a frequent guest on our program, can you refresh our memories on where your professional journey, where you went to school, how you ended up here at CNA?
Well, I started out in Akron. I grew up in Akron, went to Akron U, and then I came to CNA back in 2002, and I've been there
Sounds like a long
since.
time ago now.
It does. It's like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I've been there a long time, and I really love being in the Stark County community. I love being able to, work here and be a part of the community as well.
Great. Do you live in Stark County? Is that where you call
No,
home?
I actually still live in Akron.
Okay, yeah.
but I spend a lot of time here.
Yeah,
it's not that far away.
Right,
so,
right. Great. Yeah. And jumping into today's topic, so for many families, summer is seen as a time to relax and unwind from that daily school structure, but it's still important that students, especially kids, keep different structures and routines in place to a degree. So can you talk to us about how important it is to have some kind of a schedule over these summer months?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times people think of summer and they go, oh great, we get to throw away all the rules, all the structures and things like that. But the truth is, human beings need structure. Mm-hmm. And most of us can actually remember how difficult it was during the pandemic when things shut down, and a lot of times people were saying things like, I don't have anything to do, but I'm exhausted. Why is that? And that's because we lost our structure. Yeah, our brains need that. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to predict what is coming next. And that way our brains feel a little safe, and we can say, okay, I know what's coming, I feel prepared for it.
Right.
And when we don't have structure, we have to actively think about every minute and every decision, and it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. It's exhausting. Our brains, our bodies want to have routines. Mm-hmm. We normally have just natural rhythms in our bodies, and our heart beats at a natural rhythm.
Right.
We wake up at a natural time of day. We go to sleep at a natural time of day, and if we can keep those consistent, our body starts to know, this is the time I should start to feel tired because I should be getting ready to go to sleep. Yeah. Or this is the time I should start to get a little energized and get ready to face the day. Yeah. If we're constantly changing that, or we don't have any routine at all, our body doesn't get used to it. Our brain doesn't know how to or when to get prepared for things. And so we do need a little bit of structure. Now that doesn't mean rigid structure. So like we can have time to be flexible or do something spontaneously. But just keeping a loose structure on our day to say, let's get up in a certain time range. Yeah. And then maybe we'll aim for a certain time range to go to bed every night. Right. That gives us that little bit of routine that keeps us going. Yeah.
And I know but sometimes the younger your kids are, the more you see that as a necessity, right? Like, especially if they miss a nap, then that ruins the whole next 2 days, it feels like.
It does.
If you miss bedtime 2 nights in a row, you're off for a week. And so it's easy to forget as kids get older that it's still important to have some kind of a structure.
And as teenagers especially start getting that thing where their day flips. Yeah. And they're staying up all night. Yeah. And then sleeping in until like middle of the afternoon. Right. And then school comes along, because honestly we think of summer as this long time, but it's limited. Right. School comes along and they have to flip that back around, and that's a huge adjustment for them. So they're starting school basically with jet lag.
Yeah.
And that's not setting them up for success.
Right.
It's really hard to do that. But if we maintain some level of routine, so it doesn't have to be that you maybe get up at the same time you would have when you had school. But maybe you're not going to sleep until 2 in the afternoon. Like there's a lot of room in between there that we can find something.
Right, like the range of times
works.
it says. So between 9 and 10 you go to bed, between 7 and 8 you wake up.
Right, it doesn't have to be real rigid that we're going to get up at 7 o'clock on the dot every day.
Right.
That doesn't really work for us even when school is in session.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Things come up, and we're going to have things that mess with our routines. So you have holidays. Most people stay up later on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Want to see the fireworks? You can't do that in the middle of the afternoon.
Right, right.
You can have things like that, but then you try to get back to something closer to that structure because it's easier to adjust back to the regular school routine when you've shifted maybe an hour or two as opposed to half the day.
Right, totally flipped. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So summer also means more opportunity to be outdoors. Can you talk about the benefit of having more outdoor activities over screen time, which is an easy temptation for parents to say it's okay, unlimited screen time in the summer?
Well, and honestly, I don't want to say don't have screen time because kids love their screen time and we want them to have things that they love, things they enjoy. A lot of times that's a great way to stay in touch with their friends. They play a game together, things like that. But we do need variety in our day. And there is something that actually is wonderfully restorative to our physical health as well as our mental health about getting outside, breathing some fresh air, get some sunshine. We actually get a little bit of the vitamin D from the sunlight, and that's good for us, you know. Having the exercise of getting up and moving, because a lot of times when we're on our devices, we're very sedentary, and our bodies are not built to be that sedentary. So we need to move around. And so even if we just say, take a break for an hour, doesn't have to be that your whole day is changed, but just take a break for an hour and go outside. And there's a million things you can do outside. Take a walk, work in a garden, go on a bike ride, playing a sport, all sorts of things that people can do. But it just mixes up things a little bit. It also helps with those routines because then you're tired by the time that you go to bed. You've had that little bit of exercise. You're tired by the time that bedtime rolls around. If you've been sitting in a chair for a while, you might be achy, but your brain is still rolling. And so it's harder then to fall asleep at the end of the day. So we need to, have those times to just get outside and get some fresh air.
And while we have the opportunity, it's not many months in Ohio that we can get outside.
We've got to enjoy it while it's available.
Right, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So we know that not every child looks forward to breaks. I've talked to students recently in class and said, are you excited for summer? And some of them say no, they're not. And that's not something I had thought of much before. So can you talk about, even if it's not summer break, winter, spring breaks can be difficult for children whose parents work full time, or they're at home by themselves for long stretches of time, maybe more lonely than they would be during the school year. What message would you offer to families who are experiencing those kind of challenges? Parents can't take off work, and sometimes that poses different issues. So what message would you give to them?
Well, it's going to sound repetitive, but I'm going to go back to structure because a lot of it we can't avoid. Most of us have to work. I have to work. Those are the things that we need to do to keep our families going. But then kids need to know, well, what are they going to do with their day? So are they going to some sort of a child care program? Are they going to be home? And sometimes with older kids, it's fine for them to be home alone, but what are they going to do during the day while they are home? So sometimes that means that they might have some chores they need to do. Also including them in building that schedule for the day. So here are the 3 things I want you to do today. What are 3 things you want to do? And then let them pick the order maybe that they want it to go in. Or if something needs to be done by a certain time, set a deadline. Like, okay, this has to be done before lunchtime. The dog needs to be fed in the morning. He can't wait till 4 o'clock. Or he needs to go outside a couple of times a day. You can't just
let it go.
Let it go.
Right.
That's going to spell disaster.
Yeah.
But, talk about those things and help them come up with a way to structure their day so that they're not bored, because when they're bored, they start looking for what to do, and then often we don't like the choices that they've made. We don't like them doing things that might be dangerous or might be just things that we worry about. Is this a good influence on them?
Right.
But also, like, including them in helping to understand why the limits are in place. So, what should you do if something comes up that we haven't planned? Here's how to get a hold of me, or here's ways that you can make a good decision when these things come along.
Right. Yeah, good idea. So emergency plans.
Yeah.
I remember my mom had, when we were little, like little picture charts of, if this happens, this is the number, or if this happens, this is the number. Just as a visual on the fridge, it comforted us a little, knowing like if something happens, I can just glance at this and know what to do or who to call or whatever it is.
Yeah, because when something goes wrong, we're not in our best problem-solving mind.
Right.
We're in the panic mode where we go, oh no!
Yeah.
So something really simple like that, and it doesn't have to be pictures. If you can, you have a kid that can read decently, you can just write some things down.
Yeah.
But having that backup plan ahead of time that here's what to do, that really does put their mind at ease. And you kind of hope that you'll never have to use this.
Right. Yeah.
But just in case, here are the phone numbers, or here are the ways to reach out and get help.
Definitely. Yeah. Good. So for some children, summer can bring more stress and anxiety. What coping strategies or tools would you recommend for families to support kids who are struggling emotionally during this time?
There's a lot of different reasons that kids might be struggling, so a lot of it depends on what their struggle is and being able to understand that. So if you've got a kid that is anxious, they are worried about all the what ifs. So doing something like we just talked about, of giving them a little bit of a plan. Here's what to do, what if, sets their mind at ease. Okay, I've got a plan, this is what I should do.
Right.
Sometimes you have kids that are more depressed, and depression can lead a couple of ways. One is that they're ruminating about what has already happened and rehashing that, and so sometimes you have to bring them back to the present moment. So even just doing something real simple of a mindful thing of what right now do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What's the air feel like? Is there a taste in your mouth? All of those senses brings you into the present moment and interrupts all that. What did they mean when they said this? And if I could have done this situation over again, I would have done it differently this way. Sometimes though, when kids are depressed, what happens is that their energy is just zapped, and so they want to stay in bed all day, and they don't want to get up and do anything. And that's where, again, structuring their day and saying, here are the things we need you to do during the day. And all right, your energy level is low, let's plan a nap time for you. Or, we'll work with your energy level. Here are some things that are not high energy activities that you can do. So meeting them part way, but making sure that they don't stay in bed all day, that they do get up and shower and eat and do the things that we need to do to keep life going.
Right.
But part of it also is making sure that if they have professional help, they're still getting to their appointments, that they're still taking medication if they take medication, that they don't stop using the coping skills that they've learned throughout the rest of the year. Because, skills are skills. If you don't use them, you get rusty. So you've got to keep using them. So what did you do to cope during the school year? Okay, how can we adjust that for the summertime so that you're still feeling like you can function? And that might go back to some of the systems that you talked about, having some kind of a structure. So if you sleep through when you would have taken your medicine, maybe now we shift the time to be a different time but consistent, so you're not missing doses or whatever. It is. And again, that's part of your structure plan for the summer, and just seeing that as good health. It doesn't have to be an extra task that you do, but it's just part of your ordinary routine.
Yeah. And sometimes something that made me think of is whether children are depressed or anxious or not, sometimes a summer goal, like we try to set summer goals, like what are the 2 or 3 things you want to do this summer? Because sometimes I think kids build up summer and then they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be. This is just kind of normal life still in a way. We're not taking big vacations and all of this stuff. So what is it that we can look forward to as a family, maybe 2 or 3 things throughout the summer that will be fun things, even if it's like a day at the park together or something, or go to the lake or something, that's not expensive. But I find that kind of helpful to have things to look forward to still, that maybe aren't normal schedule things, but help with the lack of structure too.
It gives people hope.
Yeah.
When you have something to look forward to, even if it's a small thing, and honestly, sometimes it can be watching this series that I wanted to watch, or visiting a friend that I would have seen at school, but I don't see them during the summer. Those are things you can look forward to, and they don't have to cost a lot of money. They don't have to be big things, but honestly, those are often more rewarding than the really big things, because taking a big vacation, it's stressful.
I know.
A lot
As
of
a
times,
parent especially.
I come back from vacation and I'm like, I need a vacation to get over my vacation. So sometimes we need to, really savor those small things of, going to the park or having, family cookout in the backyard, or, those are wonderful experiences. And we don't need to diminish them and say, well, that's all I did. That's what I got to do. That was a privilege and a good thing that we had.
Yeah, definitely. So this has been a great conversation. Before we close, is there anything else you'd like to add, things that we didn't cover that maybe caregivers could take with them into this summer season?
I think the only thing I would add is just to really enjoy your kids. Have some fun with them, because, so soon they will change and they will be at a different phase of their life, or maybe they will move on in their life, and you won't have the chance to really enjoy them. And sometimes I think we can get so caught up in making sure that we're structuring things right and getting them the opportunities they need and giving them the big memories that we want them to have, and we forget to really just enjoy them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Great, And so it's exciting that summer's coming. Thank you for joining us, and we thank you for watching. Any more information you can find on Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health's website at childandadolescent.org, or you can call 330-433-6075. So thank you for coming, and thank you for watching. This has been Childhood Adolescent Behavioral Health.